Tonight, as you settle into the soft embrace of your pillow and let the weight of the day begin to melt away, I invite you on a journey, not to a land of fantastical creatures or heart-pounding adventure, but somewhere far more subtle, far more still. We are going to travel to ancient Europe. Now, I can almost hear a soft, sleepy murmur of protest. Ancient Europe, you might think. Won't that be just a litany of dates and crumbling stones and forgotten kings with unpronounceable names? That is precisely what we are not going to do. This story is not about the roar of battle or the scheming of emperors. It is not a history lesson. It is an invitation to notice, to slow down, to witness the profound, quiet beauty in the utterly ordinary, the magnificently mundane, the beautifully boring fabric of life as it was lived day by day, season by season, 2,000 years ago. We are going to step away from the spotlight of history and wander into its quiet back rooms, its sun-dappled fields, its softly murmuring heart. So, let us begin by letting go. Feel the gentle pull of gravity on your body, anchoring you to your bed, just as the people of our story were anchored to their earth. Let your breathing soften and deepen, becoming a slow, steady tide. With each exhalation, release any need for excitement, for drama, for plot. There is no conflict to resolve here, no mystery to solve. There is only existence, simple and deep. Imagine, if you will, the quality of light, not the flat, constant glow of electric light, but light that lives and breathes. It is dawn in a small valley somewhere in the vast, wooded heart of Germania, or perhaps on a hillside in pastoral Latium. The light is a pale, watery gray, seeping slowly through a mist that clings to the ground like a sleepy blanket. It is the kind of light that muffles sound and softens edges. You can smell the dampness in the air, the rich, loamy scent of wet soil, the tang of decaying leaves, the cold, clean breath of a nearby stream. This is our starting point, not with a person, but with a place, in a moment of perfect, quiet transition. Our first character is not a king, but a bird. A single small bird tentatively breaks the silence with a chirp, a question mark of sound. Another answers. Soon, the mist itself seems to shimmer with a chorus of waking life, a tapestry of song woven from thousands of tiny, throbbing throats. This dawn chorus is a constant, a rhythm as old as the hills themselves, heard by every soul who has ever woken in this place. From the Stone Age hunter, to the Roman soldier, to the medieval farmer, it is the same sound. Let that thought lull you. The endless cycle, the eternal return. And now, a human sound. Not a shout, but a sigh. The soft, wooden groan of a door being pushed open. A figure stands in the doorway of a small, round hut with walls of wattle and daub and a roof of thick, fragrant thatch. He is not a hero with a name for the ages. He is just a man. Let's call him Alaric. He steps outside, his breath frosting the air in a small cloud. He stretches. A long, slow, unceremonious stretch that presses the sleep from his muscles. He looks up at the sky, not with poetic yearning, but with a practical eye, reading the clouds for the weather to come. His day begins not with ambition, but with necessity. He walks a few paces to the woodpile, the ground cold and slightly crunchy under his bare feet. The sound of him selecting 2 logs is a dull, solid thunk. He carries them back inside to the hearth, where the last embers of last night's fire glow like a cluster of drowsy orange eyes. He kneels, his movements slow and practiced, and begins to nurse the fire back to life. This is a ritual performed 1,000,000 times. The gentle rustle of dry tinder, the soft, focused blowing, the first tiny flame catching, flaring, growing. The light from the newborn fire pushes back the shadows in the hut, painting the simple interior in warm, dancing tones. You can hear the fire crackle, a familiar, comforting percussion. This is the heartbeat of the home. Around the hearth, other shapes begin to stir under furs and woven blankets. Alaric's wife, Anya, sits up, her hair a sleep-tousled cascade. She says nothing. She simply reaches for a clay pot near the hearth and places it at the fire's edge. Inside is water, drawn from the stream yesterday. Soon, it will be warm for washing. Their 2 children, a boy and a girl, burrow deeper into their furs for a few last, precious moments of warmth. There are no words of grand greeting, just the soft, domestic sounds of a family waking. A cough, a yawn, the scratch of wool against skin. This is our stage. These are our players. Their goals for the day are not to conquer empires or discover truths, but to perform the same tasks their parents performed, and their parents before them. The goal is simply to sustain, to mend, to tend, to prepare. There is a deep, almost hypnotic peace in this repetition. It requires no thought, only presence. It is a life lived in the muscles and the bones, in the rhythm of breath and the turning of the seasons. As the water warms, Anya reaches for a coarse linen cloth and a small wooden bowl of barley. She will make porridge. The process is meditative. The grain is poured, the hot water is added, and she stirs with a wooden spoon. A slow, circular, endless stirring. The porridge thickens, releasing a bland, nutty, wholesome aroma that fills the hut. It is the smell of sustenance, simple and plain. There are no spices from distant lands here, no sugar, no exotic fruits, just barley, water, and a pinch of salt from a traded block. It is food, not for pleasure, but for fuel. It is deeply, profoundly boring. And in that boredom lies a kind of honesty, a direct connection to the earth that provided the grain, the sun that ripened it, the rain that fed it. They eat in silence, sitting on low stools around the hearth, wooden bowls in their laps. The warmth of the porridge spreads through their bodies. The children's eyes grow clearer, losing their sleepy glaze. Alaric finishes his portion, licks his spoon clean, and stands. His day's work is clear. A section of the fence around their small vegetable plot needs mending. The posts have been weakened by rain and rot. The task will take him most of the morning. He gathers his tools. A stone axe with a handle smoothed by years of use. A wooden mallet. A coil of fibrous vine for binding. He walks out to the plot. A small, ordered rectangle of turned earth where cabbages, leeks, beans, and onions grow in quiet rows. The damaged section is slumped, a tired shoulder leaning out of line. Alaric surveys it. He does not sigh in frustration. The fence is neither friend nor foe. It is simply a fact, a thing that needs fixing. He begins. First, he must remove the old, rotten post. He digs around its base with his hands, the soil cool and damp. He works it loose, rocking it back and forth until it gives way with a soft, wet sigh of resignation. He sets it aside for firewood. The hole remains, a dark mouth in the earth. He selects a new post from a pile of seasoned wood, hefts it, and places it in the hole. It stands, a little crooked. He adjusts it, packing soil and small stones around its base with rhythmic, thumping blows of the mallet. Thud, da, thud, dud, thud, dud. The sound is regular, monotonous, a slow drum beat against the quiet morning. Thud, thud, dud, thud. He works without hurry. There is no clock to race against, only the sun's slow arc across the sky. A bead of sweat traces a path down his temple. A fly buzzes lazily around his head. He ignores it. His world has shrunk to this post, this hole, this mallet, this vine. He's not thinking of his legacy or his place in the world. He is thinking of the tension in the binding, the angle of the post, the solidity of the earth around it. His mind is as still as a deep forest pool, reflecting only the immediate task. This is the essence of our story, the absorption in a simple physical act, repeated until it becomes a kind of moving meditation. Meanwhile, back at the hut, Anya has finished cleaning the wooden bowls with sand and water. Her daughter Lena is tasked with gathering eggs from their few scruffy hens. It is a quiet treasure hunt. Lena moves slowly, careful not to startle the birds, her small hands reaching into the dim, straw-filled nesting box. Her fingers close around a smooth, warm sphere. She places it gently in a woven basket. 1, 2, 3, a small, perfect bounty. Her brother, Kale, is chopping kindling, his smaller axe making a higher-pitched chalk sound that answers his father's deeper thud from the field. The sounds weave together, a family symphony of maintenance. Anya sits now in a patch of sunlight by the door, a basket of mending at her feet. She pulls out a tunic of undyed wool, rough and sturdy. There is a tear at the elbow. She selects a bone needle and a length of woolen thread. She brings the fabric close to her face, squinting slightly in the light. Then she begins. The needle dips in and out, a tiny silver fish leaping through the gray woolen sea. Her movements are infinitesimal, precise and endless. In and out, in and out. She is not creating a masterpiece. She is closing a gap. She is making a thing whole again. The rhythm of her sewing is even slower than Alaric's mallet beats. It is a near imperceptible pulse, the heartbeat of care itself. As the morning sun climbs higher, burning off the last of the mist, the valley reveals itself. It is not a dramatic landscape of soaring peaks and plunging valleys. It is gentle, rolling, forested hills, their greenery 1,000 subtle shades. A silver ribbon of river meanders through the bottom of the valley, in no hurry to reach the sea. The forest is not a dark, forbidding place of fairy tales, but a familiar provider, a source of wood, of game, of mushrooms and berries. It stands at the edges of their cleared land, like a patient, green wall. This is the ancient Europe we are exploring, not the marble forum of Rome echoing with political speeches, but the silent, living forum of the forest and the field. Not the clash of legions, but the patient mending of a fence. Not the epic poem, but the single, repeated stitch. And as you listen to the rhythm of this life, as you imagine the feel of damp soil, the smell of wood smoke and barley, the sound of a mallet hitting a post, let your own body settle into its rhythm. Let your breathing become the mallet beat. Let the rise and fall of your chest become the gentle stir of the porridge pot. Let the slight weight of your blankets feel like the warm, comforting fur on the children's bed. We are sinking now, deeper into this quiet day. The sun has reached its zenith, a pale lemon-yellow coin in a vast milky blue sky. The work pauses. Alaric wipes his brow with his forearm and looks at his handiwork. The fence stands straight and true again. It is a small, meaningless victory in the grand sweep of history. It will rot again in a few years and need mending once more. But for now, it stands. He feels a flicker of satisfaction, no bigger than the flame of a single candle, and then it is gone, replaced by the awareness of his hunger. He walks back to the hut, where Anya has laid out the simple noon meal. Leftover porridge, now cooled and firm, a few strips of dried smoked meat, a raw onion, and a chunk of hard, sharp cheese. They gather again, eating with their fingers, drinking cool water from a clay jug. A few words are exchanged, soft and functional. The fence is done. The brown hen is laying again. The clouds to the west are thickening. The conversation is like their food, plain, nourishing, without ornament. After eating, there is a moment of stillness. The children go to play by the stream, their voices carrying faintly on the still air. Not shouts, but murmurs of discovery as they turn over rocks to look for caddisfly larvae or watch water skaters dart across the still pools. Alaric and Anya sit in the shade of the hut's overhanging roof. He sharpens his axe with a smooth river stone. The She continues her mending. They do not speak. They simply exist together in the afternoon hum. A bee drones past, heavy with pollen. A butterfly, white as a scrap of parchment, flutters erratically past the door. Time stretches, becomes viscous, like warm honey. This is the heart of our story. This expansion of the present moment, in a world without deadlines or headlines, without the incessant ping of notifications. Time is measured in tasks completed, in the length of shadows, in the fullness of a basket. A minute can feel like an hour. An afternoon can feel like a lifetime. There is a luxury in this slowness, a depth of attention that we, in our frantic age, have almost forgotten. To watch a shadow creep slowly across the grass is to understand the turning of the planet. To watch a cloud form and disperse is to understand the nature of all things. As the afternoon wanes, the air grows cooler. The children return, their feet wet and muddy. Anya sends them to fetch more water from the stream before the light fails. They go together, the boy and girl, carrying a large clay pot between them, moving with careful, synchronized steps to avoid spilling. At the stream, they kneel on the smooth, cold stones. The water is clear, running over a bed of pebbles, making a gentle, endless chatter. They dip the pot, watching it fill, bubbles rising and swirling. They heave it up, heavy and cold, and begin the slow walk back, their small faces serious with the importance of their task. Back at the hut, Alaric is repairing the handle of a hoe, binding a split in the wood with wet leather strips that will shrink and tighten as they dry. His hands move with a knowledge that lives in his fingers, not his head. He has done this before. He will do it again. Anya begins to prepare the evening meal. It is much the same as the morning meal. More porridge, perhaps enriched with a handful of wild greens she gathered at the forest's edge. Sorrel, chickweed, dandelion. A pot bubbles over the fire. The same slow, gloopy bubbles as the dawn. The firelight grows stronger as the daylight fades, painting the hut in rich, moving golds and oranges. The world outside the door turns indigo, then black. The evening star appears, a single brilliant pinprick in the vast velvet cloak of the sky. They eat their final meal in the intimate circle of firelight. The world has shrunk to this small, warm sphere of visibility. Beyond the ring of light is darkness, full of the sounds of the night. The chirring of crickets, the distant hoot of an owl, the rustle of some small creature in the undergrowth. These are not scary sounds, but familiar ones. The natural counterpoint to the day's birdsong. There is no entertainment after dinner, no stories of gods and heroes tonight. The children are drowsy, their eyelids drooping. They are guided to their bed of furs and straw. They curl up, small animals seeking warmth. Anya banks the fire, covering the coals with ash so they will smolder slowly until morning. She and Alaric lie down on their own sleeping platform. Fire crackles once, softly, and then settles. In the darkness, there is only the sound of breathing. Slow, even, deep. The breath of the children, the breath of Anya, the breath of Alaric. In and out, in and out. It syncs with the sigh of the wind in the thatch overhead. It becomes one with the pulse of the stream in the distance. It is the sound of life, continuing. Nothing has happened today. Everything has happened. A fence was mended. A tunic was repaired. A family was fed. The wheel of the day turned, one unnotched spoke at a time. And as you lie in your own bed, in your own time, you can feel this ancient rhythm echoing in your blood, in your breath. Your ancestors, 1,000 generations back, lived days like this. Days of tangible, simple purpose. Days of profound quiet. There is a peace in this ancestry, a reassurance in the boredom. The great dramas of history are fleeting explosions of sound and light. But this daily round of tending and mending, this is the ground of being. This is the deep, slow current upon which all of history floats. So let your mind drift, now, not to events, but to sensations. Imagine the feel of coarse, homespun wool against your skin. Imagine the taste of plain barley porridge, earthy and sustaining. Imagine the smell of wood smoke clinging to your hair. Imagine the sound of a wooden mallet hitting a post, over and over. A gentle, percussive heartbeat. We are going to stay here, in this valley, with this family. For a long time, we will watch the seasons turn. We will witness the planting and the harvest. We will feel the first chill of autumn and the deep, sleeping cold of winter. But there will be no great famine, no devastating storm, no invasion. There will only be the slow, beautiful, boring cycle of life. As sleep draws nearer, let the boundaries blur. Are you the listener in the bed, or are you Alaric, feeling the weariness of good work in your limbs? Are you Anya, your mind blissfully empty of everything but the next stitch? Are you a child, safe and warm, listening to the breathing of your family in the dark? It doesn't matter. We are all part of the same long, quiet story. The story of keeping the fire lit, of mending what is broken, of meeting the dawn and welcoming the night. It is the most boring story ever told, and the most universal. So close your eyes fully now. Feel the weight of time, not as a pressure, but as a comfort, a deep, soft bed of centuries upon which you now rest. The mallet beats fade into your heartbeat. Crackle of the fire becomes the rustle of your sheets. The murmur of the stream is the sound of your own blood in your ears. You are safe. You are still. You are part of the quiet, endless hum of the world. And now, we simply continue. The story goes on, wordless and deep, as you drift into the oldest piece of all. The fire has settled into a deep, pulsing glow, a heart of orange nestled in a cradle of gray ash. The breathing in the hut is a soft, synchronized tide. Outside, the world is a tapestry of darkness and sound, woven with threads of cricket song and the occasional soft rustle in the dry leaves that skirt the clearing. The night is not empty. It is full of a life that prefers the cover of shadows, a parallel existence that carries on while humanity sleeps. As you drift in this space between listening and dreaming, let us follow a single thread of that parallel existence. A small, sleek vole, its fur the color of damp earth, emerges from a labyrinth of tunnels beneath the roots of an ancient oak at the forest's edge. Its world is one of scent and vibration, a universe contained in a few square yards of leaf litter and loam. It does not know of empires or kings. Its concerns are immediate. The crisscrossing scent trails of other voles, the juicy promise of a worm, the sharp, alarming perfume of a fox that passed hours ago. It scuttles, a tiny, purposeful shadow, its whiskers trembling, nose working constantly. It finds a fallen acorn, partly gnawed by a squirrel. It sets to work, its small teeth scraping and grinding with a sound so faint. It is less a sound and more a feeling in the air. This is its great task, its entire epic. To eat the acorn, to return to its nest, to sleep. Its heartbeat is a frantic drum, a miniature echo of your own slower, steady rhythm. For a moment, in the vast, sleeping continent, there is only the vole and the acorn, a drama of consumption played out on a stage of moss and moonlight. And then, it is done. The vole vanishes into its hidden doorway, its small life continuing, utterly unconcerned with the hut, the family, or the turning of ages. Its boring, vital existence is a perfect, tiny mirror of the larger, human, boring existence, just a clearing away. Dawn comes again, not with a fanfare, but with the same gradual lightening from black to gray to pearl. The mist is there again, a faithful visitor. The bird's song begins again, the same chorus, perhaps with a slightly different arrangement. The door groans open. Alaric steps out, stretches and looks at the sky. Today, the clouds are higher, thinner, like brushed fleece. It will be a clear day. The rhythm asserts itself, not as a prison, but as a comforting melody. The fire is rekindled from the buried embers, a small miracle of continuity. The porridge is stirred. The chill water is warmed. The family wakes, eats, and disperses into their roles. But the season is turning. The air, even at noon, carries a new crispness, a subtle sharpness that speaks of the long journey towards winter. The light is different too. It falls at a lower angle, gilding the world in a richer, more melancholic gold. The tasks of the day shift, almost imperceptibly, in response. Today, Alaric does not mend a fence. He walks to the edge of the forest where a stand of ash trees grows tall and straight. He is not alone. 2 other men from nearby steadings have come, summoned by a shared, unspoken understanding of the season. They greet each other with slow nods, their words few. The wind is from the north. Aye. They examine the trees, running hands over the bark, looking up at the branching canopy. They select one, not the largest, but one with a straight trunk and good grain. The work that follows is slow, monumental, and deeply quiet. The first swing of Alaric's flint axe bites into the trunk with a solid thwack. It is a sound that travels through the wood and into the earth. Another man takes a turn. Thwack. Then the third. Thwack. Wait. They rotate in a steady, patient rhythm. Thwack. 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 The chips that fly are pale and fresh, smelling sweetly of green wood. The axes are not sharp by modern standards. They crush and tear as much as they cut. This is not quick work. It is a conversation with the tree, a slow persuasion. The men do not speak. Their breathing grows heavier, misting in the cool air. Sweat dampens the backs of their tunics. The rhythm of the axes is the only speech needed. A shared purpose, a mutual labor. For hours this rhythm continues. The notch around the tree deepens, a growing wound of bright wood against the gray bark. A squirrel chatters an alarm from a neighboring tree, then falls silent, watching. Insects hum in the shafts of sunlight that pierce the canopy. The thwack of the axes is the heartbeat of the morning in this part of the forest. It is repetitive, physical, and utterly absorbing. There is no room for thought beyond the next swing. The placement of the blade, the angle of the cut. The mind empties into the muscles of the back and shoulders. The world narrows to the patch of bark in front of each man, the feel of the haft in his hands, the sound of his own breath, and the shared percussion of their work. Finally, with a deep, groaning crack that seems to come from the very core of the tree, acknowledges its fate. The men step back, their axes still. Crack widens, a sound of fibers parting by the thousands. With a slow, majestic sigh, the ash tree begins to lean. It picks up speed, branches tearing through the canopy of its neighbors with a great rustling roar, and then meets the forest floor with a ground-shaking thud that sends a tremor through the soles of their feet, and a flock of birds exploding into the sky in a panic of wings. Then, silence. A profound, respectful silence. The men stand looking at the fallen giant, its leaves still trembling with the impact. They are not triumphant. They are solemn. The tree has given itself. Now begins the longer work, lopping the branches, hauling the trunk back to the settlement to be seasoned and worked into tool handles, into the frame for a new cart, into firewood for the deep winter. But that is for other days. For now, they take a moment. One man pulls a leather water skin from his belt, takes a long pull, and passes it. They drink in silence, the water cold and tasting of the animal hide. They wipe their brows. A single word might be spoken. Good. And that is all. Back at the steadings, the women's work has also shifted with the season. Anya and the other women are in a sheltered, sunny spot, surrounded by the fading glory of the summer's flax plants. The plants have been pulled, not cut, to preserve the full length of the fibers. They have been left to rot in the dew and rain, a process where bacteria break down the woody stalks. Now they are dry and brittle. Anya sits on a low stool, a bundle of these brown, lifeless-looking stalks beside her. Her tool is a simple, flat piece of wood. She takes a stalk and lays it across her knee. With the wooden blade, she begins to beat it. A gentle, rhythmic tap-tap, die. The brittle outer sheath shatters and falls away, revealing the inner fibers, pale, silvery, and strong. This is scotching. Tap, tap, tap. She works methodically, stalk by stalk, releasing the long linen threads from their woody prison. It is a job of infinite patience, of small, repeated motions. Tap, 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 tap. The sound is light and dry, like distant woodpeckers. Around her, the other women do the same. A field of quiet, percussive industry. The air fills with a fine golden dust that smells of dust and dryness and the ghost of summer flower. Lena sits beside her mother, not scutching, but helping with the next step, hackling. She has a wooden paddle set with long, sharp iron nails driven through it. She takes a handful of the pale fibers Anya has prepared and pulls them through the nails. The nails comb out the shorter, tangled fibers, leaving only the longest, strongest, and smoothest strands, aligned in a silky bundle. She pulls, shakes the shorter toe fibers free, and pulls again. It is a hypnotic motion, a drawing out and a refining. The flax, under her small, careful hands, begins to transform from a messy clump into something orderly, something with potential. She does it again and again, her brow furrowed in concentration. There is no end point to aim for, only a gradual improvement. The task is its own purpose. This is the preparation of thread, the very foundation of cloth. It will be days of this before there is enough prepared fiber to begin spinning, and the spinning itself will take weeks. Every step is slow, each action repeated thousands of times. There is no shortcut. The boredom is deep, but it is a fertile boredom. In the space created by the repetitive motion, the mind is free to wander or to settle into a state of blank, peaceful awareness. Anya's thoughts might drift to her childhood, to her own mother teaching her the same tap, tap, tap. Or she might think of nothing at all, her consciousness resting in the feel of the stalk, the sound of the beat, the sight of the silver fibers emerging. Meanwhile, in the vegetable plot, Kale is helping with the harvest. It is not a dramatic, bounty-laden harvest of storybooks, but a careful, selective gathering. The bean plants are turning yellow, their pods dry and rattling. He picks them, pod by pod, dropping them into a shallow basket. Some pods pop open in his hand, releasing smooth, hard beans the color of cream, mottled with deep maroon. He collects them all, every single one. A single bean dropped is a loss, a tiny failure of stewardship. He moves down the row with a slow, crouching walk. The sun is warm on his back. The smell is of dry earth and dying vegetation. A cabbage, solid and heavy, is cut from its stem with a flint knife. An onion is pulled, its papery skin rustling. The leeks come free with a soft, sucking sound from the earth. Each item is placed with care in the basket, There is no hurry. The work is finite. There are exactly this many bean plants, this many cabbages. He can see the end of the row. His world is this row, this basket. The feel of the dry bean pod and the cool weight of the cabbage. As afternoon softens into evening, the community gathers not for festival, but for a communal task born of practicality. The men have dug a large, shallow pit in a cleared area. It is lined with stones. A fire is built in it, allowed to burn down to a bed of fierce, glowing coals. Meanwhile, the women have brought the season's last great yield, a mound of clay dug from a bank by the river, washed and cleaned of stones and roots. The clay is gray and cool and pliant. It is wedged on a broad, flat stone, kneaded and thrown to remove air bubbles, a process that is pure physical meditation. Then the making begins. There are no wheels. This is coil pottery. Anya takes a lump of clay and rolls it under her palms on a smooth board. Back and forth, with even pressure. A long, snake-like coil emerges. She takes a simple, dry-gourd bowl as a form, places the coil around its base, and begins to build. Another coil is rolled. She attaches it to the first, smoothing the join with a wet fingertip, blending the two into one seamless wall. Roll, attach, smooth. Roll, attach, smooth. The pot grows, not by magic, but by this patient, circular accretion. Its shape is determined by the angle at which she places each coil, by the gentle pressure of her fingers. Around her, others are making different vessels. A wide, shallow platter, a storage jar with a narrow neck, a simple cup. The children are allowed to try with the smaller lumps of clay, their creations lumpy and misshapen but made with the same solemn focus. There is quiet talk now, soft murmurs about the clay consistency, about the need for a smoother pebble to burnish the surface later. The shared activity creates a gentle hum of companionship. When a pot is formed, it is set aside to dry just enough to handle. Then, using a smooth, water-worn stone from the river, Anya begins to burnish it. She rubs the stone over the surface in small, fast, circular strokes. The friction compresses the clay particles, creating a sheen. It is another endless, repetitive motion. Round and round and round. The pot begins to gleam dully in the firelight. This is not a glaze. It is a polish born of patience. Round and round and round. Once burnished, the pots are carefully placed in the stone-lined pit, nestled in the hot coals. More fuel is stacked around and over them, and the firing begins. It is a slow, controlled burn that will last through the night. There is no precise temperature gauge. The knowledge is in the color of the flames, the smell of the smoke, the experience in the elder's eyes. The pots must heat slowly and evenly, or they will crack. They must reach a certain heat to vitrify, or they will crumble. This critical transformation happens unseen, within the roaring, orange heart of the bonfire. The people will take turns watching through the night, not with anxiety, but with a watchful calm. They are midwives to the birth of useful objects from earth and fire. As the stars prick through the deep velvet of the sky, the bonfire becomes the center of the world. Its light dances on watching faces. Its heat pushes back the autumn chill, the smells of wood smoke, and the faint mineral scent of heating clay. There is no feasting, no singing. Perhaps a simple shared broth is passed around. Mostly, there is waiting. Children, wrapped in skins, doze against their parents. The adults talk in low tones about the signs of the weather, about the health of an older ewe, about a patch of mushrooms found deep in the woods. Conversation is a meandering stream, going nowhere in particular. Sentences are left unfinished. Silences are comfortable, filled by the crackle and sigh of the fire. This is community, not as a celebratory gathering, but as a shared vigil, a collective tending of a process. The success of the pots is everyone's success, for the vessels will be used by all, to store grain, to hold water, to cook meals. The boredom of the watch is a shared boredom, and therefore a kind of bonding. They are together in the quiet, in the dark, keeping company with the fire and the slowly transforming clay. You, listening, are there with them. Feel the warmth of the fire on one side of your face, the chill of the autumn night on the other. Smell the complex perfume of burning oak and apple wood. Hear the logs settle with a soft crash in a fountain of sparks that swirl up towards the indifferent stars. Feel the heavy, drowsy weight of waiting, of a task that requires only presence, not action. Let your breathing sync with the slow, deep breathing of the people around the fire. And until, not out, out, in, out. The pulse of the flames is the pulse of the night. A night watchman, an older man with a beard gone gray, throws another log on the pile. The flames leap up anew, hungry and bright, casting long, dancing shadows that make the trees at the clearing's edge seem to sway and bow. An owl calls, a hollow, questioning sound that seems to come from the heart of the darkness itself. Someone stirs, adjusts a blanket. A child murmurs in sleep. The pots are in their fiery womb. The tree lies fallen in the forest. The flax fibers lie in neat, silver bundles. The harvested vegetables are stored in a cool, dark pit lined with straw. All is preparation. All is the slow, deliberate gathering in against the certainty of winter. There is no drama in this preparation, only the profound, cyclical logic of life on earth. It is deeply boring and deeply peaceful. Let this peace seep into you. Let the vast, slow patience of this ancient night replace any sense of urgency in your own mind. Your to-do lists, your worries, your plans, they are like the sparks that fly up from this bonfire, bright for a moment, then vanishing into the immense star-dusted darkness. What remains is the steady fire, the waiting people, the sleeping children, the turning planet. We will stay here for a long time. We will watch the fire until it burns down to a mound of pulsating embers, cradling the now transformed pots within. We will witness the dawn's cool light reveal the gray, hardened vessels, ready to be lifted carefully from the ashes with wooden tongs. We will feel the satisfaction, quiet and deep, of a thing well made, a task completed in its proper time. But for now, it is still night. The watch continues. The stars wheel slowly overhead. Your eyes are heavy. The murmur of voices is a distant stream. The fire is a warm, orange beacon in the vast, sleepy dark. Just breathe with it. Just be with it. The story is continuing, wordless and warm, and it is carrying you deeper and deeper into rest. The embers in the pit now glow with a deep, subdued passion, like a banked heart. The pots within, those humble, coiled vessels of earth and fire, are undergoing their silent alchemy. The watchman, the older man with the gray in his beard, whose name is Boren, feels the weariness in his bones, a pleasant, earned heaviness. He does not fight it. He simply observes it, as he observes the slight shift in the wind, a cooling breath that carries the scent of distant, damp loam, and the first hint of decaying leaf. He adds not a whole log, but a few smaller branches, to keep the heat constant, to maintain the gentle, all-enveloping warmth that cradles the clay. The action is pure ritual, performed without conscious thought, his hands knowing the weight and placement as if they were extensions of his own body. Across the clearing, in the huts, sleep is deep. In Alaric and Anya's dwelling, the air is still and close, fragrant with the smells of slept-in wool, wood smoke, and the sweet, dry scent of the straw bedding. The children, Lena and Kale, are twined together in their furs like puppies, sharing warmth. Anya lies on her back, one arm thrown across her forehead, her breathing a slow tidal rhythm. Alaric sleeps on his side, facing the hearth where a single orange eye of ember still watches the dark. In his sleep, his hand twitches, a faint echo of the axe-swinging motion from the day. They are not dreaming of glory or adventure. If dreams come, they are of the same textures that fill their waking hours. The feel of smooth, wet clay under thumbs, the sight of a perfectly straight fence post, the sound of barley grains pouring into a pot. Their subconscious minds are merely sorting the day's sensations, filing them away in the vast, quiet library of a life lived by the seasons. The night deepens. This is the time the Romans called conticinium, the time when all falls silent. Even the owls have ceased their calls. The crickets have stilled. The only sounds are the infinitesimal ones. The soft tick of a cooling ember, the sigh of someone turning over in deep sleep, the gentle rustle of thatch as a barely felt breeze combs through the roof. This silence is not empty. It is a presence, thick and velvety. It is the sound of the land itself, resting. Let your own listening sink into this silence. Behind the quiet hum in your ears, can you feel the weight of that ancient night? It is a darkness unbroken by any artificial glow. The stars are not dimmed. They are a breathtaking icy spray across the black vault, the Milky Way a smeared river of diamond dust. To our family, these stars are not distant suns. They are fixed points, familiar friends, the ceiling of their world. They tell no epic tales of gods and heroes. They are simply there, constant, predictable, boring in their eternal return. Orion will rise in winter. The Pleiades will vanish in spring. This knowledge is not written in books. It is written in their bones, observed from countless nights of fetching water or tending a fire. The constellations are the slowest moving clock imaginable, and they are content to watch its hands creep. As the deepest part of the night passes, a subtle change begins. It is not yet light, but the quality of the darkness softens, like ink diluted with a single drop of clear water. The black becomes a profound, rich gray. This is the first hint of the dawn that is still hours away. Borin, at the fire pit, notices it. He feels the air change, the dampness settling as a fine, cool dew on his skin and beard. He stirs, pokes the embers one more time, and knows his watch is nearly done. Another will relieve him soon. His vigil is almost complete. There is a deep satisfaction in this. A circle closing. He has kept the fire. The pots are safe. The night has been held at bay. It is a small, profound victory of care over chaos. And then, the first sound. Not a bird, but a badger, returning to its set after a night of foraging. It is a slow, shuffling, purposeful sound in the underbrush, followed by a soft grunt as it disappears underground. It is a sound of completion, of a task finished. The world is beginning to stir in its lowest, most secretive registers. In the hut, Anya's eyes open. She has not been awakened by a sound, but by an internal rhythm as reliable as the stars. She knows, in her blood, that the night is in its final turn. She lies still for a few moments, listening to the breathing of her family. She feels the slight ache in her shoulders from a day of beating flax, a pleasant, honest ache. She sees the faintest gray rectangle of the doorway begin to separate itself from the blackness of the wall. It is time. She rises, moving with a slow, fluid grace so as not to disturb the sleeper. Her feet find the packed earth floor, cool and solid. She kneels by the hearth and performs the morning's first sacrament, the waking of the fire. The embers are faint, but she coaxes them with her breath. A soft, steady stream that brings a glow to a tiny piece of charred wood. She adds a feathery piece of birch bark, which curls and blackens before catching with a tiny, eager flame. Then, a twig, then another. The fire is reborn. not with a shout, but with a whisper. The light grows, pushing back the shadows once more, painting the familiar objects of her home in warm dancing relief. The clay pots on their shelf, the woven basket of mending, the wooden loom leaning against the wall. She places the pot of water from last night at the edge of the flames. The day begins again. The same, and yet not the same. By the time Alaric stirs, the water is warm, and the hut is filled with the comforting, mundane smell of a fire that has caught properly. He sits up, scratches his chest through his woolen tunic, and meets Anya's eyes. They exchange a look that needs no words. It is a look of shared existence, of a partnership in the simple business of living. He rises, opens the door, and stands on the threshold. The mist is there, faithful as a dog, lying thick in the hollows of the land. The air is cold and clean in his lungs. He looks east, where the sky is now a band of dove gray, smudged with the faintest hint of rose, like a blush on cold skin. He estimates the weather. The mist means a clear day once it burns off. Good. There is wood to split and stack for winter. The children wake to the smell of porridge, the same smell as yesterday and the day before. They do not groan with boredom. It is the smell of safety, of morning, of home. They eat, their senses dulled by sleep, the warm, bland mush comforting in its utter predictability. Today's work is dictated by the season and the success of the previous days. After eating, Alaric and Kale go to the fallen ash tree. The great trunk lies where it fell, a giant's bone on the forest floor. Their task today is not to move it, but to begin reducing it. Alaric shows Kale how to use a wooden wedge and a heavy stone maul. He hits the wedge into a natural crack in the trunk, along the line of the grain. Then, with a grunt of effort, he swings the maul. Thung. A deep, resonant sound, very different from the sharp thwack of the felling axe. The wedge bites deeper. He swings again. Thung. Kale watches, his small body absorbing the rhythm. After a few blows, Alaric hands the maul to him. It is too heavy. Kale struggles to lift it, his face tight with effort. He brings it down, but it glances off the wedge with a dull clunk. Alaric does not scold. He adjusts Kale's grip, shows him the angle. Again. This time the maul hits true, with a satisfying thud that sends a vibration up Kale's arms. His face lights with a quiet triumph. Thud. He does it again. Thud, dot. They work in this way for hours. Thung. Thud. Thud. Thung. Thud. The sounds are punctuation marks in the quiet forest morning. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, a crack begins to travel down the length of the trunk, following the path of the wedges. It is a process of immense patience. There is no rushing it. The tree reveals its inner structure on its own terms, surrendering to the patient, repeated blows. The work is meditative. Alaric's mind is clear. He is teaching his son, not with words, but with shared action. He is turning a tree into fuel and lumber, not with haste, but with respect. Each swing of the maul is an acknowledgement of the tree's gift. Back at the steading, the pots have been lifted from the ashes of the pit. They are cool now, and they ring with a clear, hard ting when flicked with a fingernail. The firing has been a success. Anya and the other women are now cleaning them, scrubbing the inside and out with fine sand and water to remove the last bits of ash and soot. The pots are a motley collection. Some are a uniform gray, others are blotched with orange and black where the flames licked them directly. They are not beautiful by any artistic standard, but they are beautiful in their utility, in their solidity. They are vessels born of need and crafted with care. Anya takes the one she coiled herself, a medium-sized storage jar with a gentle belly and a slightly flared rim. She fills it with water from the stream to test for leaks. She watches, holding her breath. The water seeps into the porous clay, darkening its color, but no drip forms at the base. It holds. A slow smile touches her lips. It is a good pot. It will hold grain through the winter, safe from mice and damp. She empties it and sets it in the sun to dry completely. Lena's task is with the garden, now mostly harvested. She's gathering the final forgotten things, the marrows that hid under broad leaves, now grown fat and pale, the last few pods of beans that were missed. She's also gathering seeds. This is a careful, delicate work. She takes the driest, finest bean pods and opens them over a piece of soft leather, letting the hard, glossy beans patter down. She collects poppy seeds from rattling heads, tiny and slate gray. She carefully cuts the tops from the best leeks and places them to dry. Their seeds like black specks on parchment. These are next year's hope, stored in little pouches of leather or hollowed gourds. It is a work of faith, a belief in a future that is not guaranteed but is patiently, boringly prepared for. She labels nothing. She knows each seed by sight, by feel, by the smell of the plant it came from. This knowledge is in her fingers and her nose. The afternoon sun is warm, but its heat is fleeting, stolen quickly by the long shadow. A sense of gathering, of drawing in, permeates everything. The squirrels in the forest are frantic, their chatter a constant scolding as they bury acorns. The bird song has changed. It is less about territory and mating now, more about short, practical calls as flocks gather for migration. The world is busy with its own preparations, a symphony of instinctual activity that mirrors the human work. As evening approaches once more, the family is together again inside the hut. The new pot sits proudly on the shelf. The stack of split ash wood is growing against the side of the house. The seed pouches are tucked away in a dry niche. The day's work is done. Tonight, there is a slight variation in the routine. Anya has saved a small piece of the hair from the last trading moot. A tough, sinewy piece. She has been boiling it with the last of the onions and a handful of barley in the new pot, making a thin, greasy broth. It is a minor feast, a celebration of the pot's first use. The smell is rich and meaty, a welcome change from the plain porridge. They eat it slowly, savoring the rare flavor of meat. The broth is hot and salty, warming them from the inside out. They sit in a contented silence, the fire crackling, their bodies tired and fulfilled. After eating, Alaric does not go straight to sleep. He takes a piece of seasoned yew wood and a small, sharp flint blade. He is going to carve a spoon. It is not a necessary task. They have spoons. But the wood is good, and his hands want to work in a smaller, quieter way. He begins to shape the bowl of the spoon, making small, controlled scrapes with the blade. No. Shh. The sound is softer than a whisper. Curls of pale wood, thin as parchment, coil away from the blade. He works by firelight, his face a mask of calm concentration. He is not creating art. He is revealing the spoon that he believes is hidden within the wood. His movements are sure and slow. Shh. Shh. Gah. Anya picks up a spindle, a simple, weighted stick, and a bundle of the flax she prepared. She attaches a few fibers to the top of the spindle, gives it a deft twist with her fingers, and lets it drop, spinning. As it spins, it draws out the fibers from the bundle in her other hand, twisting them into a strong, continuous thread. She pulls, twists, winds, pull, twist, wind. It is a dance of two hands, a perfect coordination that is both skill and rhythm. The spindle whirs a soft, hypnotic drone. The thread grows, winding onto the spindle shaft. It is monotonous, endless work. One thread, then another. It will take miles of this thread to make a tunic, but she does not think of the miles. She thinks only of the next pull, The next twist. The firelight gleams on the growing linen, turning it to gold. The children watch, their eyes growing heavy. The combination of the warm broth, the gentle shick of the carving knife, and the whirring drone of the spindle is a powerful soporific. They are not being told a story. They are being shown one. The story of making, of patience, of slow transformation. It is the most boring story in the world, and it is the story of everything they know. One by one, they succumb. Kale's head nods onto his chest. Lena slumps against her mother's side. Alaric lays down his half-formed spoon and gently carries the children to their bed. Anya winds the last of her thread and sets the spindle aside. The fire is banked. The hut is dark save for the pulsing embers. They lie down. The night is colder now. They huddle closer under the firs. Alaric's arm goes around Anya. They listen to the wind, which has picked up, sighing through the thatch with a new, deeper voice. It is the voice of the coming winter, still distant, but making its presence known. It is not a threatening sound. It is just another part of the world's rhythm, like the stream or the dawn chorus. They listen to it, and their breathing slows, matching its long, drawn-out sighs. And as you listen, let that sighing wind carry you deeper. You are in the hut, warm under firs. You are by the fire pit, watching embers pulse. You are the thread being spun, the wood being carved, the seed being saved. You are part of this slow, endless cycle. There is no past, no future, only this present moment, stretching out like the long, cold night, comfortable in its predictability, peaceful in its profound, beautiful boredom. The story needs no plot. It simply is, and you are simply here, breathing with it, until the boundaries between listener and story dissolve, and there is only rest, deep and quiet, as an ancient forest, and as enduring as the patient, turning earth. The wind's sigh through the thatch becomes a constant companion, a whispered conversation with the night. It is a sound that does not startle, but simply is, like the sound of your own blood in your ears. Inside the hut, the warmth is a palpable entity, a dome of still air held bravely against the increasing chill of the outside. The family sleeps, a tangled mound of shared heat and slow breath. Dreams, if they come, are not narratives, but sensations. The remembered coolness of the stream water on wrists, the gritty feel of clay dust between fingers, the monotonous, comforting thud of the mallet. Their subconscious minds are like quiet looms, weaving the day's plain threads into the solid, unpatterned fabric of memory. Outside, the world continues its own silent business. The moon, a waning sliver of tarnished silver, has risen late. Its light is feeble, doing little more than etching the tops of the mist with a faint, ghostly luminescence. In this weak light, the world is reduced to shapes and suggestions. The forest is a ragged, black wall. The clearing is a bowl of gray. The hut is a darker mound, huddled and patient. Fox, its coat the color of rust and shadow, trots with delicate, purposeful steps along the edge of the tree line. It pauses, one front paw lifted, nose quivering as it reads the novel of the night air. The scent of sleeping humans, of wood smoke, of the cold earth. It is not afraid, merely curious. Its yellow eyes reflect the moonlight for an instant, two brief chips of amber, and then it is gone, melting back into the gloom, a creature of the between times, belonging wholly to neither day nor night, but to the quiet transitions. The hours stretch, elastic and deep. This is the time when sleep is at its most profound, when the body repairs and the mind rests in a blank, dark pool. It is a time without story, without thought. It is simply existence at its most basic, most peaceful frequency. Then, a change. so subtle it is felt before it is heard. The wind, which had been sighing from the north, hesitates. It stills completely, for the space of several long breaths. In that stillness, the silence becomes absolute, a weight pressing down on the land. It is the silence of held breath. Then, a new breath comes. It is from the west, and it is warmer. Carries a different scent, not the dry, leafy scent of the forest floor, but a damp, mineral scent, the smell of distant rain on stone. This new wind is softer, gentler. It caresses the thatch with a different whisper, a softer sibilance. Alaric, even in his sleep, senses it. It is a knowledge written in the marrow, a farmer's sense. His breathing alters slightly. He does not wake, but a part of him registers the shift. The hard edge of the coming winter has been postponed, just for a little while. A softer time is being granted, a reprieve. When dawn arrives, it confirms the change. The mist is different. It is not the thick, cold, cotton wool blanket of previous days, but a hazy, golden fog lit from within by a sun struggling through high, thin clouds. The air is milder, damp but not biting. The world seems softened, its edges blurred. The day's work adjusts to this atmospheric gift. The urgent stacking of wood can wait. Today is a day for a different kind of gathering. After the morning porridge, Anya and Lena take baskets and the small, sharp sickle made of flint. They are not going to the garden or the flax patch. They are going to the meadow that slopes down to the river, a place of long, tawny grass and late flowering plants. The walk there is a journey through a muted world. Spider webs, strung between the stems of brown bracken, are beaded with a million tiny droplets of mist, each one a perfect, trembling lens holding a miniature, inverted world. The grass is wet, soaking their leather foot wrappings and the hems of their tunics with a cold that is refreshing, not unpleasant. They walk in silence, their eyes scanning the ground. They have come for mushrooms. This is not the reckless foraging of amateurs. It is a focused, knowledgeable hunt. Anya's eyes, sharp and practiced, pick out shapes and colors that mean nothing to an untrained glance. She points with a silent finger. There, nestled in a tussock of grass, is a cluster of field bluets. Their caps a smooth, lilac gray, their gills the same pale color. She kneels, her fingers deftly probing the base, checking for the telltale absence of a volval sac, confirming the identity. Then with a quick sideways slice of the flint sickle, she severs the stem, leaving the mycelium underground to fruit again. She places the mushroom in her basket. It is cool and firm, smelling of damp earth and something faintly spicy. Lena watches, then spots her own, a troop of giant puffballs, white as peeled hard-boiled eggs, bulging from the soil. These are her prize. She taps one. It gives a solid, satisfying thump. Good. It is young and edible, not yet turned to spore-filled dust inside. She slices it off, the white flesh pristine. The basket begins to fill with these silent, strange fruits of decay and damp. The apricot-colored chanterelles hiding in mossy hollows, the dark, crinkly trumpets of death that are, despite their ominous name, delicious and safe. There are no mistakes. This knowledge has been passed, not in books, but in the pointing finger, the shake of the head, the shared meal that did not bring illness. It is a library written in lived experience. The work is slow, methodical, meditative. They move in a slow crouch walk, their world reduced to a square yard of wet grass and leaf litter at a time. The only sounds are the soft snick of the sickle, the wet squelch of their steps, the distant gurgle of the river. Their minds are utterly present, focused on identification, on the feel of the mushroom's stem, the color of its gills. There is no room for wandering thought. It is a kind of moving mindfulness, a communion with the quiet, hidden generosity of the autumn earth. Meanwhile, Alaric and Kale have gone to the river. The milder weather has made the idea of being in water less daunting. Their task is not to bathe, but to harvest a different kind of bounty. The reeds and withies that grow in thick stands along the banks. Alaric wears an old pair of leather leggings and wades into the slow-moving bronze-colored water. It is cold, a shock that makes his calves ache, but he ignores it. He selects tall, straight reed stems, cutting them at the base with a sharp flint knife. He bundles them. Kale on the bank gathers the longer, more flexible willow withies, the young shoots that can be twisted and woven without breaking. This, too, is slow, wet work. The water chuckles around Alaric's leg. A water vole plops into the stream with a soft splash and swims for the opposite bank, its head a tiny V on the surface. Dragonflies, their wings impossibly iridescent even in the soft light, dart and hover, ancient helicopters of glass and wire. The air smells of wet vegetation and cold mud. The reeds, when cut, smell green and slightly sweet. The withies are pliant and tough. They work until they have 2 large, dripping bundles. These are the raw materials for the winter's craft, the reeds for thatching repairs, for making mats to lay on the earth floor, the withies for weaving baskets, for repairing fish traps, for making the frames for small cages. It is a harvest of potential, of future usefulness. The work is simple, repetitive, and peaceful. The river does not care. It simply flows, carrying leaves on its brown surface, on its long, meandering journey to a sea none of them have ever seen. By midday, both parties have returned. The hut's interior is now a workshop of earthy smells. The mushrooms are spread on a woven mat near the doorway to air, their exotic forest floor scent mingling with the wood smoke. The reeds and withies are stacked outside to dry, their moisture glistening. The afternoon is dedicated to processing. Anya and Lena sit together, sorting the mushrooms. Some, like the puffballs, will be sliced and dried on a rack near the fire. Others, like the chanterelles, will be cooked today in a simple stew with barley and a precious lump of salt. Their fingers are stained with earthy colors, their movements careful and deliberate. They talk little, their attention on the task, on separating the perfect specimens from those with a little too much insect damage, on brushing away clinging fragments of moss and soil. Alaric and Kale work with the withies. Alaric shows his son how to soak them in a trough of water to make them even more pliable. Then how to begin a simple weave for a basket. Kale's first attempts are clumsy, the withies crossing at wrong angles, the shape collapsing into a lopsided mess. Alaric does not take over. He demonstrates again, his own large calloused hands moving with a surprising delicacy. Over and over, the lesson is in the repetition, in the feel of the wood giving and holding. It is a lesson in patience for them both. The goal is not a perfect basket by sunset. The goal is the understanding in the fingers, the slow accumulation of skill. The failed attempts are not discarded. They are unraveled. The withies smoothed and soaked again. There is no waste, only learning. As the soft gray afternoon light begins to fade, the stew pot bubbles over the fire. The smell is rich, deep, and utterly unfamiliar compared to the usual porridge. An earthy umami scent that makes their stomachs growl in anticipation. It is a small celebration of the day's unique harvest. They eat the stew from their wooden bowls, savoring the chewy texture of the mushrooms, the way they have absorbed the salt and the flavor of the fat. It is a taste of the forest, a direct connection to the hidden, mycelial networks that weave through the soil beneath their feet. They eat in a contented silence, tired from the day's focused, physical concentration. Afterwards, as the fire burns down, there is no carving or spinning. The day's different exertions have left them all in a state of pleasantly diffused tiredness. They simply sit, watching the flames. The wind has settled back into a gentle breeze from the west. The promised rain has not come, only this soft, damp peace. Anya finally speaks, her voice a low murmur in the darkening hut. The puffballs will dry well. They will be good in the deep winter. Alaric nods, staring into the fire. The with eyes are strong this year. We will mend the big fish trap. These are not plans, not hopes. They are simple statements of fact, observations of the world's ongoing provision. They are the threads of the next day's tapestry. The children are already asleep, full of mushroom stew and weary from crouching and weaving. Alaric and Anya sit a while longer, not needing to speak, sharing the quiet. The fire pops, sending a constellation of sparks up towards the smoke hole. An old piece of wood sizzles as its sap boils. Finally, Anya rises, banks the fire with the usual care. They lie down. The hut is filled with the strange, wonderful smell of drying mushrooms, like a forest floor brought inside. It is a smell of abundance, of subtlety, of the earth's quiet, less obvious gifts. As you breathe in this imagined scent, earthy, complex, deeply peaceful, let it anchor you in this moment of simple, profound satisfaction. There was no drama today, no danger, no great discovery. Only a walk in a wet meadow, some cutting of reeds in a cold river, the careful cleaning of fungi, the patient teaching of a weave. It was a day of attentive gathering, of listening to the softer voice of the changing season. It was boring, detailed, and deeply fulfilling. Let this feeling of fulfilled boredom wash over you. The satisfaction of a task that required your full attention, but no emotional turmoil. The peace of being a part of nature's cycles, not as a conqueror, but as a careful participant. Your own breath slows, matching the slow, even breathing of the sleepers in the hut. The smell of mushrooms and wood smoke becomes the smell of your own calm. The gentle wind outside is the sound of your own quiet mind. You are here in this ancient, patient rhythm, where time is measured not in hours, but in baskets filled, in skills passed down, in the slow, sure turning towards the heart of the year. And in this rhythm, there is a rest so deep, it feels like the very soil of the earth itself. Dark, quiet, and endlessly sustaining. The smell of drying mushrooms fades into the background, becoming as much a part of the hut's atmosphere as the scent of the smoke-blackened beams overhead. Days begin to fold into one another with the soft, relentless consistency of the river's flow. The brief reprieve of the west wind passes, and the north wind returns, this time with a sharper tooth, a clearer intent. The mornings are now heralded not by a chorus of birds, but by a crystalline silence, broken only by the brittle crunch of the first frost underfoot. Alaric's breath explodes in great, rolling clouds when he opens the door. The world has been sketched in silver overnight. Every blade of grass, every twig, every fallen leaf is encased in a sleeve of rime, glittering faintly in the pre-dawn gloom. The forest across the clearing looks as though it has been dipped in glass, its complexity reduced to a million sparkling points of light. It is breathtakingly beautiful, and utterly mundane to him. It is simply the next fact of the world. Frost means the earth is hardening. It means the real work of winter preparation is now upon them. The tasks in these shortening days are all inward, all centripetal, pulling life and sustenance into the heart of the steading. The rhythm of the mallet and the axe is replaced by other, quieter, more persistent sounds. One of these is the grinding. A large, flat sandstone quern, its surface dimpled from generations of use, is brought into the hut for the season. Its companion is a smaller, loaf-shaped handstone. Anya's task for many hours of each day now is to grind grain. She kneels before the quern, a heap of dried barley at her side. She takes a handful, scatters it across the stone's surface, and begins to move the handstone back and forth, in a long, grinding oval. The sound is a low, gritty crush scrape. Crush scrape. It is not loud, but it is pervasive. A bass note to the day. The motion is from the shoulders, a rolling, rocking push and pull. Barley grains are stubborn. They do not shatter easily into fine flour, but are crushed into a coarse, gritty meal. Crush scrape, crush scrape. The work is monumental in its monotony. Her arms and shoulders burn with a dull, persistent ache. Her mind cannot wander far, for the rhythm must be maintained, the pressure consistent. Yet, in that focused, physical repetition, there is a kind of trance. She becomes the motion. Crush, scrape, crush, scrape. The world narrows to the path of the stone, the trickle of crushed grain down the slope of the quern into the waiting basket below. Crush, scrape, crush, scrape, date. It is the sound of patience made audible, the transformation of hard, stored potential into usable food, one relentless, grinding stroke at a time. Lena often sits with her, not to grind. The work is too heavy for her small arms for long, but to winnow. When a basket is full of the coarse meal, Lena takes it outside to a spot sheltered from the worst of the wind. She has a flat, woven tray. She pours a small amount of the meal onto it, and with a practiced, gentle flick of her wrists, she tosses it into the air. The wind, cold and keen, catches the lighter chaff, the brittle husks of the barley, and carries it away in a golden haze. The heavier grits and flour fall back onto the tray. Flick, catch, flick, catch. It is a dance with the air, a separation of the useful from the useless. Her movements are economical, graceful. The chaff spirals away like tiny ghosts. The good meal remains. Then she pours it into a storage pot, one of the newly fired ones, and returns for more. It is companionable work. The mother's deep, grinding rhythm, answered by the daughter's soft, shuffling flick. Alaric and Kale's world is now the woodpile. The great ash trunk has been reduced to rounds, the rounds split into manageable billets. Now the billets must be split again into firewood. This is the work of the wedge and the froe. Alaric sets a billet on a massive, scarred stump that serves as a chopping block. He positions a froe, a thick, L-shaped blade of iron, on the wood's end grain and strikes its back with a wooden mallet. Clunk, dot. A crack appears. He moves the froe. Strikes again. Clunk, dot. The crack widens. He then uses a wooden glut, a kind of wedge, to prise the piece apart. The wood gives with a long, tearing shriek of fibers. The two halves fall to the ground. He examines the grain, selects the next point of attack. Clunk, tear, tear, clunk, dike, tear. And the sounds are percussive and visceral. The clunk of metal on metal, the wet, ripping sound of the wood surrendering. It is cold work, but vigorous, soon driving the chill from their bodies. Kale's job is to stack. He takes the split pieces and builds them into a neat, interlaced wall against the side of the hut, creating a windbreak and a store. He learns to stack them so air can circulate to keep them dry. He learns which pieces are best for kindling, which are dense and slow burning for the long winter nights. His world is the geometry of the stack, the feel of the rough bark, the satisfying solidity of a well-made woodpile. It is a fortress against the cold, built log by log. The days are short. The sun, when it appears, is a pale wan coin low in the southern sky, offering light but little warmth. It slices across the clearing in long dramatic shafts that highlight the frost but do not melt it. By mid-afternoon, the light is already leaching from the world, turning blue and thin. Work must cease. The temperature plummets as soon as the sun's glance is withdrawn. Life contracts to the circle of firelight. The evening meal is the same. Porridge, perhaps now enriched with a handful of the dried mushrooms, rehydrated in the cooking water, giving it a deeper, earthier flavor. Sometimes a strip of salted dried meat is boiled into it. It is hot, filling, and monotonous. After eating, the fire becomes the center of all activity. Alaric might work on the spoon he began carving, the sh-sh of the flint blade a soft counterpoint to the fire's crackle. Or he might rub bare fat into a leather harness to keep it supple, the smell of the grease thick and animal in the close air. Anya spins. The spindles whir a constant drowsy hum. The children, their energy confined by the small space, might play a quiet game with knucklebones, or simply watch the flames, their eyes reflecting the dancing orange light. Talk is spare, and when it comes, it is of practical things, spoken slowly, between long pauses. The peat from the bog will need cutting soon. Aye, before the ground freezes solid. The ewe's foot is better. A nod. Silence, filled by the whirring and the crackling. Sometimes, on the very stillest, coldest nights, when the stars are like chips of ice and the air is so clear it feels brittle, they might hear a sound from far, far away. It is a faint, high, mournful chorus, wavering on the edge of hearing. Wolves. The sound does not frighten them. It is a fact, like the wind or the frost. It is the voice of the wild country beyond their clearing, a reminder of the world that exists outside their circle of firelight and stacked wood. They listen for a moment, their heads tilted. Then the sound fades, and the familiar, close sounds of the hut reclaim the silence. One such evening, after the wolf song has come and gone, Anya does not pick up her spindle. Instead, she reaches for a small, wrapped bundle kept on a high shelf. She unfolds a piece of soft, worn leather. Inside are treasures. A few beads of amber, the color of honey, traded from the north long ago. A smooth greenstone pendant. A ring of twisted bronze too small for any of their fingers now. And there is a comb, made of antler, its teeth fine and even, one broken. She holds the comb for a moment, then gestures to Lena. Lena comes and sits on the floor between her mother's knees, her back to the fire. Anya begins to comb her daughter's hair. It is a nightly ritual in warmer times, but has been neglected in the recent bustle. Lena's hair is long and thick, a tangle of sun-bleached brown. The comb catches on snarls. Anya works slowly, starting from the very ends, holding the hair above the tangle, so it doesn't pull on Lena's scalp. Pull, pull, gentle tug. The comb moves through in slow, smooth strokes. Pull, pull. There is no hurry. This is not about grooming. It is about touch, about connection, about a quiet physical care. The rhythm is hypnotic. Pull, pull. The fire warms their backs. Thome's teeth scrape gently against Lena's scalp, a soothing sensation. Her eyes drift closed. Kale watches from his seat, his own head tilting slightly as if he can feel the comb's path. Alaric stops his carving and watches too, the firelight softening the lines of his face. This simple, intimate act is the core of everything. The fence mending, the wood splitting, the grain grinding. It is all to protect this. The ability to sit in safety and warmth, to tend to each other in small physical ways. The comb moves, stroke after slow stroke, until Lena's hair is a smooth, shining curtain down her back. Anya braids it loosely, her fingers moving with the same practiced, unconscious skill she uses for weaving or stitching. Then she gestures to Kale. He comes, though with less grace, and she runs the comb through his shorter, rougher hair a few times. It is a gesture of equality, of care. This is their entertainment. This is their culture. Not songs of heroes, but the silent song of the comb through hair. Not sagas of conquest, but the saga of keeping a child's hair free of lice and tangles. It is profoundly, achingly boring, and it is everything. Afterwards, the comb is wrapped and put away. The children, lulled by the warmth and the gentle attention, are ready for sleep. The fire is banked. The cold outside seems to press in closer, making the hut feel like a warm, bright cave in a world of ice. They lie down. The furs are heavy. The shared body heat is a comfort. They listen to the new sound of winter. The creak of the hut timbers as they contract in the intense cold. A sound like a ship straining at its moorings. It is a lonely sound, but not an unfriendly one. It is the sound of their home, holding firm. And as you lie in your own bed, imagine that cold, so sharp it has a texture, a taste of iron on the air. Then imagine the profound, enclosed warmth of the hut, the smell of smoke and human skin, and the faint, lingering scent of dried mushrooms and bear grease. Imagine the weight of the furs, the solid presence of other sleeping bodies nearby, the deep, rhythmic sound of their breathing. There is no need for thought. There is only this animal comfort, this ancient, shared survival against the dark and the cold. Let that feeling of enclosed, communal warmth wrap around you. Let the distant creak of timbers become the settling of your own house. Let the deep, slow breathing of the family become the pattern of your own breath. You are safe. You are sheltered. The work of the day, the grinding, the splitting, the stacking is done. It was hard, monotonous, and complete. There is nothing more to do but rest, to recharge, to exist within this tiny, warm kingdom of firelight and family, while the starry, frozen night holds its breath outside. The story is not moving forward. It is settling downward, like snow, covering everything in a layer of quiet, repetitive peace. And you are settling with it, deeper into the mattress, deeper into the calm, deeper into the beautiful, boring, essential rhythm of a world slowed to the pace of a heartbeat in the long, dark night. The deep cold holds for days, a tight, glittering fist around the valley. Then, one morning, the change is felt before it is seen. Alaric opens the door to a different quality of silence. The brittle, crystalline sharpness of the air is gone, replaced by a muffled, woolly quiet. The world has vanished. A thick, moist fog has rolled in during the night, swallowing the forest, the sky, even the near trees at the clearing's edge. It's a gray, formless world, and it is utterly still. No wind stirs, no bird calls. The only sound is the occasional, soft plop of moisture condensing on a leaf and falling to the sodden ground. This fog is not like the mist of autumn. It is heavier, colder, and it carries within it a promise. Alaric stands in the doorway, his face beaded with fine droplets. He sniffs the air. It smells of wet earth and stone, and beneath that, something else. A blank, neutral scent. The smell of weather waiting to happen. He knows this fog. It is the herald of the first true snow. The day's work is dictated by this atmospheric shift. There is a last, urgent gathering to be done, but it is not from field or forest. After the morning porridge, the family dons their warmest wraps, extra tunics, cloaks of thick, oily wool that smell of lanolin and smoke. They take baskets and a small antler-handled digging tool. They do not go far, just to the edge of the clearing where the ground slopes down towards the stream, becoming boggy. Here, the vegetation is different. Tussocks of coarse grass, spiky rushes, and a spongy green carpet of moss. This is the peat bog. It is a place of quiet, acidic decay, where generations of plants have died and been preserved in the waterlogged ground. The work is cold, wet, and strangely peaceful. Alaric uses the digging tool to cut rectangular blocks of peat from the dark, fibrous earth. It comes away in heavy, dripping bricks, the color of rich coffee, smelling profoundly of damp and ancient forests. It is not wood, but it is fuel, slow-burning, smoky, and long-lasting. It is the earth's own stored sunlight, captured in layers of sphagnum moss and compressed by time. Kale and Lena's job is to carry the heavy sodden blocks to a drear, slightly higher piece of ground where they will be stacked into neat, crisscrossing piles, like a dark, earthy version of the woodpile. The peat needs to air dry for months before it can be burned, but cutting it must happen now, before the ground freezes into iron hardness. Their hands quickly become numb with cold, and stained a deep, rusty brown. The fog envelops them, reducing their world to a circle of 20 paces. Sounds are muted. Their own breathing is loud in their ears. They work in a soft gray cocoon, the only punctuation the slurp of the digging tool cutting into the bog, the wet thud of a peat brick hitting the ground, and their own labored breaths as they carry the heavy loads. Anya works alongside them, but her gathering is more delicate. She is not cutting peat, but harvesting the moss itself. With careful fingers, she pulls up great, dripping handfuls of sphagnum moss, shaking off the excess water and placing it in her basket. This moss is not for fuel. It has other, humbler uses. It will be dried and used as stuffing for bedding, providing a soft, springy, and surprisingly insulating layer beneath the furs. It can be used as a primitive bandage for its remarkable absorbency. It is the toilet paper of the ancient world, soft and disposable. Her hands move with a gentle efficiency, pulling and gathering, her fingers turning pink with the cold, the moss cool and spongy to the touch. They work through the morning in this wet, gray silence. The fog does not lift. It simply exists, a presence as tangible as water. Their clothes become soaked through at the knees and sleeves. Their hair is plastered with fine droplets. There is no conversation. The work is too physical, the environment too absorbing. They are creatures of the bog for these hours, engaged in a silent pact with the wet earth, taking what it offers for their survival. By midday, they have a good stack of peat bricks and a full basket of moss. They return to the hut, their footsteps quiet on the sodden grass. Inside, they peel off the wet outer layers, hanging them near the fire, where they will steam gently, filling the hut with the moist, earthy smell of peat and wet wool. They warm their hands over the flames, fingers tingling painfully as circulation returns. The simple act of being dry and near the fire is a profound luxury. The afternoon is for indoor work, mending and making in the fire's gentle light. But the fog outside has done its work. As the early winter dusk begins to blend with the gloom, the temperature, which had risen slightly in the fog, drops sharply. The moisture in the air has a decision to make. It begins just as the last light fails. At first, it is indistinguishable from the fog. A few lazy flakes swirling in the aura of light from the open doorway. Then a few more. They are large, ragged flakes, descending with a slow, sleepy grace. Anya stands at the door, watching. She holds out her hand. A flake lands on her palm, a perfect, intricate star of ice, and persists for a breathtaking second before melting into a single bead of water. She feels a childlike wonder, quickly subsumed by practical thought. It is beginning. They close the door, sealing themselves in. The first night of snow is always a solemn occasion. The outside world is being erased, replaced by a soft, soundless blankness. After the evening meal, they do not immediately go to their beds. They sit together by the fire and listen. At first, there is nothing. Then, a faint, almost imperceptible hush begins to make itself known. It is the sound of a million tiny impacts on the thatch, on the ground outside, on the leaves of the trees that still cling to the oaks. It is not a sound so much as a texture of silence, a soft, whispering exhalation from the sky. Alaric gets up once, much later, and pushes the door open just a crack. The world is transformed. The blackness is now luminous gray. The ground, the woodpile, the stacked peat, all are wearing a smooth, pristine blanket. The flakes are still falling, countless and endless, drifting past the slash of firelight like tiny, silent ghosts. He watches for a long moment, the cold air biting at his face. Then he closes the door, bolts it, and returns to the fire. "It is settling," is all he says. They sleep that night to the sound of that gentle hush, a lullaby of cold peace. The snow is sealing them in, insulating their world, closing the door on autumn for good. When Alaric opens the door the next morning, the world is reborn in white. The sun is blazing in a sky of hard, flawless blue. The snow reflects the light with a painful brilliance, making everything seem sharper, cleaner, quieter. The forest is a fantasy of white and black, every branch outlined in snow. The clearing is an untouched sheet, smooth and perfect. The air is so cold it feels like breathing glass. The first task is simply to make a path. Alaric uses a broad wooden shovel, little more than a shaped plank, to push the soft, deep snow away from the doorway, creating a narrow trench to the woodpile, to the peat stack, to the midden. The snow is light and dry, puffing up in clouds as he shovels. The effort is strenuous, and soon he is sweating despite the cold, his breath pluming like a dragon's in the still air. Kale follows behind, tamping the path down with his feet. The snow changes everything and nothing. The routines remain, but they are slower, more effortful. Fetching water from the stream now means breaking a thin skin of ice at the edge and filling the pot with aching cold liquid. Checking the animal snares set at the forest's edge, a luxury of meat that rarely pays off, is a trek through knee-deep drifts, leaving a lonely, laborious trail. Sound is absorbed by the white blanket. The world is muffled, peaceful, and profoundly isolated. Days take on a new, even slower rhythm. Mornings are for essential outdoor chores, clearing new snow if it has fallen, fetching water, checking traps. The short afternoons and long evenings are for the indoor crafts. The grinding continues. The spinning continues. Alaric now works on a more complex project, using some of the well-seasoned ash wood to carve a new haft for his axe, the old one having developed a hairline crack. He shapes it with knife and scraper, testing the fit in the axe head over and over, shaving off a sliver here, rounding a curve there. It is work of exquisite slowness and precision, a dialogue between his hands, his eyes, and the wood. One afternoon, as the low sun casts long blue shadows across the snow, Anya brings out the loom. It is a simple, upright frame. She strings it with the strong linen thread she has spun over the past months. This is the beginning of weaving cloth, the culmination of all that tapping and combing and spinning. The process is mesmerizingly slow. She uses a wooden sword-like tool to beat the weft threads tight against each other. Thump, slide, thump, slide. The rhythm is stately, deliberate. With each pass of the shuttle, a carved stick wound with thread, and each thump of the beater, a tiny incremental strip of solid cloth grows at the top of the loom. It is perhaps the most boring activity imaginable, making fabric literally one thread at a time. Yet, it is also magic. She is transforming a pile of fragile flax fibers into something strong, durable, and useful. The thump, slide becomes the heartbeat of the long, snowbound afternoon. The children, confined and restless with energy they cannot expend outdoors, are given tasks that teach patience. Lena is given a lump of clay and told to make as many small uniform pellets as she can. Slingshot ammunition for Kale. She rolls them between her palms, over and over, aiming for perfect spheres, her brow furrowed. Kale is given a deer antler and a piece of sandstone and told to sand it smooth to make a tool handle. The scratching, grinding sound joins the symphony of indoor industry. They are crafting their world, slowly, manually, thread by thread, stroke by stroke. There is no destination, only the process. The boredom is deep, creative, and fertile. In the space it creates, small moments of non-boredom shine with startling clarity. The taste of a hot brew made from dried rose hips and honey, a precious hoard. The way the firelight makes the growing web of cloth on the loom look like a tapestry of gold. The silent, hilarious spectacle of a sparrow that has braved the cold to peek in. Night falls early and completely. The cold outside intensifies, but the hut, with its banked fire, its thick walls, and its insulating blanket of snow on the roof, becomes a warm, close womb. The family huddles together after the evening meal, not for lack of space, but for shared warmth and comfort. They may tell stories, but not of gods and monsters. The stories are of the mundane. The time the brown hen flew into a tree and couldn't get down, the year the apple tree by the old wall gave a double harvest, the way grandfather could mimic the call of every bird in the wood. They are stories of their own tiny history, reinforcing their place in the continuum of this place. And then, sleep. The deep, heavy sleep of those who have used their bodies, whose minds are not churning with unresolved drama, but are pleasantly emptied by hours of repetitive, purposeful work. The sleep is dreamless and profound, a sinking into the warm, dark well of rest, while the frozen, star-clad world holds its breath outside. As you listen to the rhythm of this snowbound life, the thump, slide of the loom, the crush scrape of the quern, the soft shk of the carving knife, let it slow your own internal tempo. Feel the enforced stillness of the world outside, the peace of being inside, of being safe, of having simple, clear tasks that fill the short days. Feel the warmth of the fire on your skin, the weight of the furs, the close, familiar smell of your people and your home. You are not waiting for spring. You are being in winter. There is no yearning for what is to come, only a full, deep engagement with what is. The snow is not an obstacle. It is the condition of the world. The boredom is not something to escape. It is the medium in which life is lived, deeply and attentively. Let this winter stillness enter your bones. Let the slow, deliberate pace of the looms beat become the pace of your thoughts, until they slow and settle, and finally still, like snowflakes finding their rest on a vast, white, silent field. The story is here, in this endless quiet now, and you are here with it, drifting deeper and deeper into the soft, white silence of perfect rest. The deep snow brings a new, profound silence, a hush so complete it seems to absorb time itself. Days pass in a soft, white blur, marked not by events, but by subtle changes in the light on the snow and the incremental progress of indoor tasks. The family's world has contracted to the radius of firelight and the narrow, packed snow paths to the essential places. The woodpile, the peat stack, the frozen stream. One morning, a new sound enters this muffled world. It begins as a faint, high-pitched ping, like a tiny, distant bell. Then another, and another. Alaric, stepping out to fetch wood, stops and looks up. The sky is still a hard, brilliant blue, but the air is filled with a slow, glittering descent of diamond dust. It is not snow. These are ice needles, tiny spicules of frozen moisture, falling from a clear sky. They catch the sun, creating a shimmering, ethereal haze. As they land on the hard crust of the snow, they emit that delicate ping. The sound is infinitely small, yet in the immense silence, It is as clear as a choir of crystal bells. He stands for a moment, listening to this frozen music, his breath a steady plume in the dazzling air. It is a moment of inexplicable beauty in the midst of the deep, practical winter. Then he bends to his task, the music continuing its silent, sparkling fall around him. Indoors, the rhythm of survival continues its deep, slow beat. Anya has moved from weaving to the next stage of textile work. Fulling. The length of rough, newly woven linen cloth is taken from the loom. It is coarse and loose. To make it stronger and more wind-resistant, it must be felted slightly. She fills a large wooden trough with warm water and wood ash, which makes a weak lye. She submerges the cloth, and then begins the process of agitating it, kneading it, pounding it, folding and working it with her hands and feet. It is hard, physical labor, a monotonous slog of pushing and pulling the heavy, wet fabric. The hut fills with the smell of wet wool and lye, and the steady, wet slosh thump of her efforts. Slosh, thump, slosh thump, for hours. Her arms ache, her back protests, but the rhythm is compelling, almost hypnotic. She is not making something new. She is convincing the cloth to become more than it was, to tighten its weave, to become a better defense against the world. Slosh thump, slosh thump. Lena's task is to help with the carding of wool, a small store of sheep's wool traded for at the autumn moon. She has 2 wooden paddles, set with short, bent wire teeth. She takes a small, greasy clump of raw wool and places it on one paddle, then uses the other to comb it over and over, pulling the fibers straight and aligning them. Scritch, scratch, gaunt. Scritch, scratch. The sound is dry and fibrous. Tiny motes of dust and lanolin float in the sunbeams that slice through the smoke hole. Her hands grow tired, her wrists sore, but the tangled mass slowly yields, becoming a light, airy roll of fluffy fiber ready for spinning. It is a fight against chaos, a battle of infinite small combings. Scritch, scratch, dia. Alaric and Kale have turned their hands to the repair of tools. In the dim light by the fire, they examine every piece of equipment. A bone needle is polished smooth on a stone. A fish hook carved from deer antler is reshaped with a flint flake. A leather strap is examined for weak spots, rubbed with more fat. It is work of maintenance, of preserving what they have. There is no creation, only care. Alaric shows Kale how to tie a new knot in a net, how to splice a broken fishing line made of braided animal sinew. The lessons are slow, mostly silent, communicated through demonstration and repeated attempt. Time stretches and bends around these tiny, focused actions. An afternoon can be spent on a single knot perfected. The monotony is broken only by the needs of the body and the small rituals of the day. The melting of snow in a pot over the fire for drinking water, a slower process than drawing from the stream, watched with a patient eye. Careful portioning of their stored food, so many handfuls of barley, so many strips of dried meat, so many dried mushrooms. There is no fear in this rationing, only a deep, attentive respect for the limits of their supply. Each meal is a calculation of sustenance against the remaining winter. One evening, after a day of particularly still cold, a new phenomenon occurs. As the last of the twilight bleeds from the sky, a faint, greenish glow begins to pulse on the northern horizon. It is not the moon. It is a soft, undulating curtain of light, tinged with pale green and violet. It shimmers, breathes, slowly dances across the starfield. The family sees it through the smoke hole, a silent, celestial spectacle. They do not gasp in awe. They do not invent myths about fighting spirits or gods. They simply watch, their faces upturned, painted in the eerie, moving light. It is a thing of the sky, like the sun or the stars. It is beautiful, strange, and ultimately just another part of the world they do not control and do not need to understand. It is a light show for no audience, a silent ballet on a frozen stage, millions of leagues wide. They watch until their necks grow stiff, and then they look away, back to the fire, back to the familiar, close world of their own making. The aurora is not an event. It is a decoration on the vast, cold ceiling of their night. As the weeks of deep winter wear on, a new kind of boredom sets in, a lethargic, cozy boredom. The initial industrious energy of being snowed in has been spent. Now, there is an acceptance of the pace, a settling into the long haul. Conversation grows even sparser. They've talked about everything practical 100 times. Now, they exist in a comfortable, shared silence, broken only by the necessary sounds of work and the soft, somatic sounds of existence. A sigh, a stomach's rumble, the crack of a joint. They sleep more. Long, heavy naps in the afternoon, when the light is gray and the cold seems to seep into the very stones of the heart. They sleep curled close together for warmth, a pile of humanity under furs, their breathing sensing into a single, slow rhythm. Dreams are vague and formless, sensations of warmth and cold, of endless walking through white landscapes, of the taste of summer berries remembered. One day, there is a storm, not a blizzard of howling wind, but a silent, relentless discharge of snow that falls so thickly it again blots out the world. They stay inside, the fire their only defense. The world beyond the door ceases to exist. There is only the hut, its sounds magnified by the muffling blanket of falling snow. The crackle of the fire, the thump of the loom beater, the scrape of a tool. They move slowly, deliberately, like creatures in a dream. Time loses all meaning. It could be morning or midnight. The light is a constant dim gray. In this timeless bubble, Anya does something different. She has saved a small, precious lump of beeswax from a wild hive, found long ago. She warms it by the fire until it is soft and pliable. Then, she takes a dry, hollow reed. Slowly, with immense care, she begins to coat the inside of the reed with the warm wax, turning it, letting it cool, coating it again. She is making a candle. Not a tall, elegant taper, but a simple, short rushlight. It is a tiny stockpile of portable light, for the darkest nights or for emergencies. The work is fiddly, quiet, and consumes an entire afternoon. The children watch, fascinated by the transformation of the golden wax, by the slow emergence of a new, useful thing from simple materials. It is a lesson in slow magic. The storm passes. The silence returns, deeper than ever. When Alaric opens the door, the snow has drifted high against the side of the hut, sculpted into smooth, graceful curves by the wind. The path to the woodpile is gone, completely filled in. He sighs, a sound not of frustration, but of acceptance. The shovel will come out again. The path will be remade. It is the work of the season. And so, the cycle continues. A slow, seamless round of maintaining warmth, processing food, mending tools, and waiting. There is no narrative thrust, no climax approaching. There is only endurance, a patient, stubborn participation in the turning of the year at its slowest, coldest point. This is the heart of ancient boredom, a profound engagement with the present so complete that it becomes a kind of eternity. The mind, deprived of novelty, turns inward or simply rests. It becomes aware of the minute, the play of shadow from a single flame on a piece of wood, the exact sound of boiling water just before it froths over, the pattern of the grain in the axe handle being smoothed for the 10,000th time. As you listen to this endless winter, let it cool the fever of your own thoughts. Let the silent white world outside the hut become the quiet behind your own eyelid. Let the repetitive, purposeful motions, the slosh thump, the scritch-scratch, the sheshk of the knife, become a mantra that stills the chatter of your mind. There is nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, only to be, to tend the fire, to breathe, to wait. You are in the long, deep middle of the story. The beginning is forgotten. The end is unimaginably far away. There is only this soft, perpetual now, wrapped in wool and fur, lit by fire and wax, accompanied by the simple beating heart of survival. It is boring beyond measure. It is peace beyond understanding. Let it hold you. Let the deep, cold quiet outside and the warm, close quiet inside merge until you cannot tell where one ends and the other begins, and you drift like a snowflake on a still, endless night, down into the deepest, most restful sleep of all. Then a sound different from all others. It is not the ping of ice needles, nor the hush of falling snow, nor the deep, familiar creak of timber in the cold. It is a sound from above, from the very roof of their world, a soft, hesitant drip, blink, blink. It lands in the small, soot-blackened pot Anya is placed by the central hearthstone to catch the condensation. The sound is small, a tiny, liquid punctuation in the dry, crackling silence of the hut. But it is monumental. Alaric, who is mending a fish trap with a strand of sinew, stops. His hands go still. Anya, stirring the ever-present pot of porridge, pauses, her wooden spoon hovering. The children look up from their quiet game of knucklebones. Plink. Another. And then a slow, irregular patter begins. A gentle, liquid rhythm on the thick thatch above their heads. It is the sound of a thaw. The sun, climbing higher in its daily arc, has finally gained enough strength to warm the southern side of the roof. The snow is melting. No one speaks. They simply listen. The sound is a promise, a slow, sweet music after the long silence of winter. It is the first, undeniable sign that the deep freeze is breaking. Alaric sets aside his work and goes to the door. He unbolts it and pushes it open, not with a shove against snow, but easily. The world is weeping. Great tears of water are dripping from the eaves, carving tiny, dark channels in the deep snow beneath. The icicles that have hung like jagged teeth along the roofline are shedding their skins of ice, falling with soft, wet plops to the ground. The air is different. It is still cold, but the brittle, cutting edge is gone, replaced by a damp, mild coolness that carries the scent of wet earth, of rotting leaves buried for months, of stone and moss, and life stirring beneath the white shroud. It is the smell of the world remembering itself. The work of the day changes immediately, instinctively. There is no discussion. The indoor tasks, the weaving, the tool mending, the spinning, are abandoned. They pull on their damp, cold leather boots and cloaks and step outside. The world is a study in transformation. The snow is no longer a dry, powdery blanket, but a heavy, sodden, collapsing mass. It slides from the branches of trees in wet, slumping heaps. The paths Alaric has kept open all winter are now streams of slushy, gray water. The sound is everywhere. The gurgle of meltwater finding its way to the stream. The drip, drip, drip from every surface. The soft, slushing sound of their own footsteps. The first task is to save the woodpile. The stacked logs, so carefully dried, are now in danger of being soaked through. Alaric and Kale begin the laborious process of moving the entire pile, log by heavy, wet log, to a drier, more sheltered spot under the overhang of the hut on the northern side. It is cold, wet, exhausting work. Their hands quickly grow numb. Their backs ache, but there is a new energy to it. It is work of renewal, of adaptation to a changing world. The rhythm of carrying and stacking is familiar, but the purpose feels lighter, infused with the promise of the dripping eaves. Anya and Lena turn their attention to the vegetable plot still buried under a foot of wet snow. But the edges are visible. They use wooden spades to carefully clear the slush away from the southern-facing wall of the hut, where the sun's warmth is strongest. They are not planting yet. They are uncovering, revealing the dark, dormant earth beneath. The soil is cold and hard, but it is there. It is a promise of green things to come. As they work, they find the first brave, foolhardy signs of life. The tight, green spear tips of snowdrops pushing up through the rotting leaf litter at the forest's edge. They do not pick them. They simply note them. A silent, shared observation. Life is returning. The days spent in this wet, muddy, glorious labor. By afternoon, they are all soaked to the skin, splattered with mud, and more tired than they have been in weeks. But it is a good tiredness, a tiredness of muscles used in the service of hope, not just endurance. That evening, the fire feels different. It is not just a defense against the cold, but a cheerful companion. The wet cloaks and boots steam and sizzle nearby, filling the hut with a rich, earthy smell. The steady drip from the roof is a constant, soothing percussion to their meal. They eat their porridge, but tonight, Anya adds the last precious dribble of honey from a clay jar. A celebration of the thaw. The sweetness is startling, a taste of summer sunshine remembered on the tongue. After eating, they do not immediately take up their tools. They sit, listening to the drip and gurgle of the melting world. The children's eyes are bright, their energy not yet spent from a day spent outdoors. Alaric looks at Anya, and a slow, rare smile touches his weather-beaten face. It says nothing and everything. The long, silent battle is turning. In the days that follow, the thaw accelerates. The snow retreats like a ghostly army, shrinking back from the sun's advance. The stream, so quiet under its lid of ice, now becomes a boisterous brown torrent, roaring with meltwater, carrying twigs and last year's leaves on its swift current. The sound of it is a constant background rumble, the voice of the valley waking up. New tasks emerge. The ground, once frozen iron hard, becomes a quagmire. They lay down planks and flat stones on the most traveled paths to keep from sinking to their ankles in cold mud. The fish traps, repaired over the winter, are now set in the stream, their woven willow mouths hoping to catch the hungry fish stirred by the rushing water. One morning, a new sound joins the chorus of water. A soft, cooing murmur. A pair of wood pigeons has returned, perched in the bare branches of an oak, their feathers puffed against the chill. Their calls a gentle, questioning conversation. They are the first migrants back. Their sound is a thread connecting this wet, muddy present to the green, leafy future. Life begins to look outward again. Alaric takes his axe and goes not to the woodpile, but to the forest to look for signs of deer, to see if the paths are passable. He returns with no game, but with a report. The celandines are out in the sunnier glades, their flowers like drops of liquid gold on the forest floor. He also brings a handful of fresh, bright green spruce tips, which Anya steeps in hot water to make a sharp, cleansing tea that tastes of resin and sunlight. It is a tonic against the damp, a medicinal welcome to the new season. The boredom of winter, so deep and introspective, is being replaced by a different kind of monotony. The active, wet, messy monotony of transition. It is no less repetitive. The constant mud, the endless drip, the careful drying of clothes and wood. But it is imbued with a sense of direction. They are moving towards something. Children feel it most keenly. Confined for so long, they now revel in the mud, in the freedom to run and slip, in the clearing, in the thrilling, cold shock of the stream's edge. Their play is louder, their laughter a new sound in the air. They are like buds themselves, bursting with pent-up life. Nights are still cold, and the fire is still banked high, but the desperate, clutching cold is gone. The air that seeps under the door smells of mud and growth, not just of clean, frozen nothingness. Sleep is still deep, but it is the sleep of physical exhaustion from outdoor work, not the heavy metabolic sleep of hibernation. One evening, after the children are asleep, Alaric and Anya sit by the fire. The drip has slowed to an occasional plop. The roar of the stream is a distant rumble. Alaric is carving again, this time a simple peg for the door hinge that has worked loose. Anya is not spinning or weaving, but simply looking at her hands in the firelight, at the lines of dirt ingrained in the skin, at the small cuts from brambles encountered while clearing the garden edge. They are the hands of work, of season upon season of tending. She looks up at the smoke hole, where a single bright star winks in a patch of clear dark sky. The ground will be ready for turning soon, she says, her voice quiet. Alaric nods, not looking up from his carving. After the next moon, perhaps. That is all. But in that exchange is the entire plot of their lives. The winter story of endurance is closing. The spring story of sowing is about to begin. And they are here, in the quiet, muddy, dripping interval between the two. There is no fanfare, no dramatic change of scene. Just the slow, sure, boring turn of the wheel, felt in the softening earth and heard in the music of melting snow. As you listen to this transition, feel it in your own body. The deep, quiet rest of winter is giving way to a gentle, somatic awakening. Feel the imagined chill of the mud, the cool dampness of the air, the ache of good work in your limbs. Hear the symphony of water in all its forms. Drip, gurgle, roar, rush. Smell the wet earth, the rotting leaves, the faint green scent of spruce tips. Your own rest can be like this thaw. Not a sudden, jarring awakening, but a gentle, gradual return. Let the rhythms of this ancient, muddy spring loosen any last clutches of tightness, of held-in winter. Let the steady, patient work of this family reassure you that change does not need to be dramatic, to be profound. It can be as simple as a drip from a roof, a green tip in the mud, a bird's call returning to a bare branch. So breathe in this damp, hopeful air. Feel the world slowly turning, slowly waking in its own slow, boring, beautiful time. And as you drift, let the sound of the distant stream carry you, not into the deep stillness of winter, but into the soft, flowing, effortless current of a restorative sleep, where dreams might be of simple things, of turning dark soil, of dropping small seeds into waiting earth, of the patient, quiet hope of green. The drip from the eave slowed, then ceased. The roaring torrent of the stream settled into a steady, purposeful chatter. The mud, under the alternating gaze of sun and drying wind, began to firm, its surface cracking into a fine, intricate mosaic. The world was in that still, expectant pause between the melt and the true surge of growth. The air held a balance, cool enough for a cloak in the morning, but carrying, for the first time, the undeniable soft warmth of the sun on stone. The work now was of preparation, of clearing the stage for the main performance of the year. Alaric went to the small and close plot of earth they called the garden. He carried not an axe, but a digging stick, a stout length of ash fire-hardened at one end. He began at one corner, driving the point into the earth with a soft thump, levering up a clod of dark, moist soil. He broke the clod with the side of the stick, exposing worms that writhed, pink and surprised, in the sudden light. He moved down the row. Thump, twist, break. Thump, twist, break. The rhythm was slower, more deliberate than the splitting of wood. It was a conversation with the earth, an asking of permission. The smell was rich and profound. The scent of life suspended, of decay transformed into potential. It was the smell of the future. He did not hurry. The plot was not large. To turn it all in a day would be a frenzy. He did a row, then rested, leaning on his stick, watching the clouds. Great, towering piles of white that promised rain, not snow. Then another row. His back ached in a familiar, welcome way. This was the ache of creation, not just maintenance. By late afternoon, a quarter of the plot was turned, the soil lying in rough, dark corrugations, breathing. Meanwhile, Anya and Lena were engaged in their own sort of turning. They had brought out the seed pouches, the little vessels of hope saved from last autumn. They sat on a sun-warmed log by the hut's wall, the pouches spread on a piece of leather between them. This was an inventory of promise. Anya opened one, the leather soft with age. Inside, the bean seeds, hard and glossy as polished stones, mottled maroon and cream, rattled softly. She poured a few into her palm, her fingers tracing their smooth curves. Each one was a closed universe, containing not just a plant, but meals, sustenance, life for another cycle. She counted them, not with numbers, but with a weighing in her hand. Enough for 2 rows. Next, the tiny, black leek seeds, like grains of gunpowder. Then the oat seeds, hulled and pale. The poppy seeds, a cascade of slate-gray dust almost too small to see individually. They examined each cache, checking for mold, for the telltale borehole of a weevil. It was a quiet, sacred accounting. Lena watched, her small face serious. She was learning the treasury of their existence, not in gold, but in these tiny, dormant parcels of food. As they worked, the first true heralds of spring arrived on the wing. Not the cautious pigeons, but a swarm of gnats, dancing in a shimmering column in a sunbeam, a constellation of frantic, joyful life. A little later, a single, early bee, its body a blur of fur and industry, blundered past them, searching for the first nectar in the celandines by the forest edge. Its buzz was the sound of the engine of the world turning over once more. In the afternoon, the family worked together on a different task, repairing the wattle fence that surrounded the garden. The winter's frosts had heaved some of the posts, and the woven lattice of hazel withies was broken in places where snow had slumped against it. It was familiar work, a repetition of the task from moons ago, but it felt different. Then it was a defense against the entropy of rain and rot. Now it was a preparation for the nurturing of what was to come. They worked in a comfortable silence, Alaric resetting posts, Anya and the children weaving new withies through the uprights, their fingers remembering the over-under pattern. The sun warmed their backs. A sense of rightness, of things being put in order for the season of growth, settled over them. That evening, after a meal that now included a few handfuls of fresh stinging nettles gathered from a sunny bank, boiled to docility, they tasted green and vital. Alaric did not carve. Instead, he took a piece of chalky stone and went outside to the smooth, flat face of a large boulder that stood at the edge of the clearing. In the last of the twilight, he made a mark, a single, short, vertical line alongside 7 others, grouped in a rough pattern. It was his calendar, his history. 1 mark for each moon since the last great storm, or since the birth of Kale, or since the trading moot. Only he knew the key. He stood back, looking at the marks. They were a record of endurance, of time past. Soon, he would need to find a new rock, or start a new sequence. The old one was filling up. Inside, Anya took the newly folded cloth from its frame. It was stiffer, denser. She measured it against Alaric's old tunic, her lips moving silently as she calculated. She would cut soon, and the winter's work of spinning and weaving would become a spring garment. The cycle was completing itself, even as a new one began. The night was alive, with a new kind of sound. Frogs in the stream's overflow pools had awakened. Their chorus was a relentless, rhythmic churning, a deep, liquid croaking that pulsed through the darkness. It was not a beautiful sound, but it was a powerful one. The sound of countless small lives rejoicing in the wet and the warmth. It was the night shift of spring, working while the world slept. They lay in the dark listening to the frogs. The children were already asleep, worn out by sun and air. Alaric and Anya lay side by side, listening. "The frogs are loud," Anya murmured. "Eh," Alaric said. "Good for the soil." And that was that. The phenomenal, raucous celebration of amphibian life was translated, in their minds, into a practical benefit for the barley. There was no poetry, only the interconnectedness of things. The frogs meant wet earth. Wet earth meant good sowing. Good sowing meant full bellies. It was a chain of cause and effect as beautiful and boring as any equation. As the moon rose, casting a clean silver light over the clearing, a different sound occasionally pierced the frog chorus. The sharp, high yip of a fox, the bark of a vixen answering. The wild world was also busy with its own spring rituals, its own dramas of mating and territory. But inside the hut, these were just sounds on the perimeter, part of the tapestry of the night, not stories to be followed. In this gentle preparatory week, the most exciting event was the sprouting of the saved potatoes. They had a few precious tubers from a trade years ago, kept in the cool dark of the storage pit. Now, in the warmer air of the hut, pale, ghostly shoots had begun to writhe from their eyes, seeking light. Anya carefully cut them into pieces, each with a shoot, and laid them on a shelf to callus. Soon, they would go into the newly turned earth, a strange, underground fruit from a distant land, now part of their own cycle. Life was not thrilling. It was meticulous. It was the careful cutting of a seed potato. It was the methodical turning of soil. It was the patient mending of a fence. It was the silent accounting of dried beans. There was no climax, only the steady accumulation of readiness. One afternoon, a soft rain began to fall. It was not the sleet of winter, nor the torrential downpour of summer, but a gentle, soaking drizzle that fell straight down from a sky the color of a wood pigeon's breast. They retreated to the hut, but not to huddle. They left the door open, watching the rain dimple the puddles, smelling the incredible perfume of wet earth and stone that rose in response. It was a rain that nurtured, not challenged. They sat in the doorway, Alaric sharpening tools on a whetstone, Anya beginning to cut the cloth, the children playing a quiet game with string. The sound of the rain was a soft, constant shushing, a benediction on the waiting earth. This is where the true drama of ancient life resides, not in battle, but in the moment the first drop of spring rain hits the freshly turned soil. Not in discovery, but in the recognition of a bee's buzz. Not in creation, but in the preparation for it. It is a drama of anticipation so slow, it is almost still. Let this gentle anticipation seep into you. Feel the cool, moist air of that open doorway. Smell the petrichor, the scent of life itself being summoned from the stone. Hear the soft, steady hiss of the rain and the distant, contented rumble of the stream. There is no urgency here, only a perfect, pregnant patience. The work is done for today. The earth is ready. The seeds are ready. The rain is doing its work. All that is required is to wait. So wait. Breathe in time with the slow fall of the rain. Let your thoughts settle like the soil after the digging stick, into a state of receptive calm. You are not idle. You are poised. You are part of the great, boring, beautiful pause before the green wave breaks. In this poised, peaceful waiting, there is a rest so deep it is akin to the seed itself. Dormant, full of potential, quietly dreaming of the sun. Drift into that dream. Let the sound of the spring rain be the only story you need. A lullaby of growth, whispering you down into the dark, fertile, and utterly peaceful soil of sleep. The rain whispered its promise for a day and a night. When it finished, the world seemed to have taken a deep, final breath. The air was washed clean, holding the scent of water and fresh-turned earth with a crystalline clarity. The sky was a vast, tender blue, dotted with clouds so white they seemed newly laundered. The sun, risen higher now, poured a gold that was warm, not just bright, onto the clearing. This was the day. No one declared it. It was simply known, as the body knows to wake at dawn. After the morning porridge, eaten in a silence that hummed with purpose, had gathered their simple tools and the pouches of seed. The garden plot turned and rained upon was perfect. The soil was dark, crumbly, and cool to the touch. Alaric took his digging stick and began to make furrows, not with a plow, but with a steady dragging pull of the stick's point, opening a shallow, straight wound in the earth. The line he made was clean and true, a dark stitch across the brown fabric of the plot. Behind him, walking with a slow, measured pace, came Anya. From a pouch tied at her waist, she took pinches of the small, hard barley seeds. By the flick of her wrist, born of 1,000 repetitions, she scattered them into the furrow. Her motion was rhythmic, almost casual, but her eye was precise. Not too thick, not too thin. Each seed was a sentence in the story of the coming harvest. Flick, scatter. Step, dotty. Flick, scatter. Lena followed, her small feet carefully tamping the earth over the seeds, sealing them in their dark nursery. They moved down the plot, a slow, silent procession of planting. Drag went the stick. Flick, scatter went the seeds. Pat, pat went the small feet. It was a ceremony without words, a liturgy of faith in the future. The sun warmed their necks. A ladybird, its shell a brilliant drop of lacquer, crawled over a clod of earth, then opened its wings and flew away on a tiny breeze. The world seemed to hold still, attending to this most fundamental of acts. Next came the beans. For these, Alaric used a sharpened stick to make individual holes at precise intervals. Into each dark little mouth, Lena placed a single, glossy bean, like offering a jewel to the earth. Kale followed, covering them, his hands gentle. Each bean was a greater investment, a larger promise. They were planted with more ceremony, more individual care. Row by row, the empty plot was inscribed with intention. The leeks, the onions, the oats, the precious potato pieces lay in their deeper beds and mounded over. It was not quick. The sun climbed, reached its zenith, and began to descend. Their backs ached from bending. Their knees were stained with earth. But there was no fatigue, only a deep, cumulative satisfaction. They were writing their hope directly onto the land, in a language of seeds and soil. When the last seed was covered, and the last row patted smooth, they stood at the edge of the plot, a family of muddy, quiet figures. The garden was no longer just earth. It was now a repository of time. In its darkness slumbered the next 6 moons, the sprouting, the growth, the heading, the ripening, the harvest. All of it was there, invisible, coiled tight in those tiny, scattered kernels. They had done their part. Now, it was for the sun, the rain, the earth, and time. They washed their hands and tools in the stream, the cold water shocking away the dirt and the solemnity. The children splashed, the mundane act of cleaning becoming play again. The work was done. The great annual gesture was complete. That evening, the mood around the fire was different. It was not the weary contentment of winter, nor the busy focus of preparation. It was a light, quiet fulfillment. The most important work of the year was behind them. The waiting could now begin in earnest. Anya cooked a simple meal, but she added a precious lump of last year's salted butter to the porridge, and the richness felt like a fitting tribute to the day. After eating, Alaric did not carve. Anya did not spin. They simply sat. The fire crackled cheerfully. The frogs sang their tireless song. The first moths of the year, dusty and soft, batted against the warmth of the flames. The children, exhausted from the day's focused labor, fell asleep quickly, tumbling into their furs like stones into a pool. Alaric and Anya sat in the companionable silence that was the bedrock of their lives. They had spoken less today than on most days, their communication woven into the shared action of planting. Now, words were unnecessary. They listened to the night, to the proof of life continuing all around them. They had added their own thread to the endless tapestry. It was a small thread, dyed in the colors of barley and bean, but it was theirs. It was enough. And as you have listened to this small, slow story, this chronicle of the deeply, magnificently boring, you have woven yourself into that tapestry as well. You have felt the weight of the mallet and the smoothness of the seed. You have smelled the wood smoke and the wet earth. You have heard the thump of the loom and the drip of the thaw. You have kept company with this family through the turning of a wheel, one slow, deliberate spoke at a time. This is not a story that ends. The sun will rise tomorrow on the sown field. The fence will need mending again. The thread will run out on the spindle and need renewing. The wheel turns eternally, boringly, beautifully. So as you lie in your own bed, far in the future from that smoky hut, let the rhythm of that eternal wheel become your own. Feel your breath as the steady turn. Feel your heartbeat as the reliable pulse of the mallet or the spindle. You are not separate from this ancient piece. You carry it in your blood, in your bones, in the very need for rest that brings you here tonight. Let go of the need for event, for climax, for resolution. There is only the cycle, the planting and the harvest, the waking and the sleeping, the breath in and the breath out. The fire in the hut is banked now, a bed of glowing coils pulsing gently in the dark. The family sleeps. The seeds are in the earth. The story is complete, which is to say, it is perpetually beginning again. I'll allow the quiet of that sleeping, steading to fill you. The work is done. The watch is kept. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to follow. Just the soft, distant chorus of frogs, the sigh of a sleeper, the infinitely slow unfurling of a root in the dark soil. You are held in this quiet. You are part of this endless, gentle return. Let it pull you down now, deeper than any plot of earth, into the richest, most restorative sleep. A sleep as old as seeds, as deep as winter, as peaceful as a field waiting for dawn. The story is over. The story goes on, and you now can rest. Good night.